Hey everyone, this is Rabbitearsblog, and welcome to my first ever episode of TV episode Roundup. And in this series, I basically give a rundown of all the TV episodes I review for the week. So I go from worst pick of the week to best pick of the week. And before I get started on this video, I would like to remind everyone that new videos of my main channel will be posted every Sunday. It could be Sunday morning, Sunday night, or Sunday evening, depending on when I can get the videos posted. And if you happen to see a video posted up during the week, that must mean that there was a bit of TV show or movie news that was released during the week that I wanted to cover. So those would be considered special videos, but new videos will be posted up every Sunday. And every Monday, I will have a new video for TV episode Roundup set up for Mondays. So be sure to look out on Mondays for the TV episode Roundup videos. So let's get started on the TV episode Roundup. I only watched 3 shows this week. Before I was reviewing one show for the previous weeks, but because I was trying to wait for the other shows to come in late in fall, I was waiting on trying to do the TV episode roundup reviews. But this week I managed to watch 3 shows for the week. So here's we're going to start with the worst pick of the week. So number 3 is the Inhumans pilot. So in the Inhumans pilot, this is our first entry to the Inhumans world through television. And in this pilot, we see that the Inhumans warrior family gets booted out of their palace by Maximus, who's Black Bolt's brother, and the warrior family of the Inhumans that includes Black Bolt, Medusa, and Gorgon, and those end up getting stranded on Earth. And they try to find their way back to Earth to stop Maximus from taking over Black Bolt's palace. So my thoughts about this episode was that I thought that the setup for the characters was pretty weak. Like, I felt like most of the characters were pretty flat, and they didn't really develop the characters very well. And also, I felt like the characters were very unlikable. Like, I didn't really feel any sympathy for any of the characters when they lost their palace to Maximus, because most of the characters were jerks, or, I just couldn't really get into their characters, so I didn't really have a lot of sympathy for most of the humans' characters when they got booted out of the palace. And I also felt like the pacing for the episode was pretty slow. Like, there were times where I was trembling on my cell phone during the episodes because I was just like that bored with the pacing of the show, and it kind of caused a lot of the enjoyment of my episode to go down. Now, there were some things I did like about the pilot. I thought the special effects were pretty decent. I did like Lockjaw in this episode. I felt like he was like one of the only characters I actually liked in this episode. But overall, I didn't care much for the Inhumans pilot, and I gave this episode 2.5 stars, and that was my number 3 pick. Moving on to number 2, and that was the Ghosted pilot, which premiered on Fox on Sunday night. And in this episode, we see that Leroy and Max are like kidnapped by the Bureau underground. Like, they're a bunch of people who deal with the paranormal activities, and it turns out that one of their agents was being kidnapped, and so they enlist the help of Leroy and Max to try to help them find their missing agent in this episode. And overall, I thought this episode was pretty decent. Like, I like the way that it balanced the comedy and the drama in this show, even though it's more focused on comedy. And I like the fact that it kind of calls back to the previous shows where the comedy protagonists deal with serious situations. Like with Scrubs, you have JD and Turk, who are comedy protagonists who deal with the serious stuff of the hospital, like the death of the patients and dealing with the patient's illness. And then you have Psych, which has Sean and Gus, who both deal with the murder investigations and try to solve the cases. And now you have in Ghosted Leroy and Max, who are like comedy protagonists who are dealing with the paranormal activities. So I like the good balance between comedy and drama in this episode. My only gripe with this episode was that I felt like they went through the plot too fast, and there were times where I felt like they didn't really develop the characters very well, and I'd like to know more of it. But I understand this is a pilot episode, and they're not going to develop all those characters all in one episode. So I gave the Ghosted pilot 4 stars, and that was my number 2. So now, moving on to number 1, and it's the Orville, the 4th episode, If the Stars Should Appear. So what happens in this episode is that the Orville crew end up on this planet, or they end up on the ship, where the people inside the ship don't know much about the outside world, because their government is like keeping secrets from them. And so the Orville crew tried to warn the people, that the ship is heading towards the star and would destroy the crew if they don't do some. It would like destroy all the people if they don't find a way to move the ship away from the star. So I like this episode a lot because I like how the episode dealt with the cult dealt with real life situations, like how the government could be seen as a cult trying to brainwash a group of people, or it could be seen as a corrupted government that's like keeping secrets from people depending on how you view the situation at hand. And I also like how they brought back the comedy in this episode, because the last episode we saw about a girl, which was the third episode, was more serious in tone. So and this episode was like there's a lot of comedy in it, but it's still a lot of drama in it, especially when they're dealing with the real world situations about how cults or corrupted governments go in real life. And I just love the bantering between all the characters. Like I especially love that moment between the two leading females of the ship, um Ed's former wife and the smaller, stronger girl. I like their interaction with each other and how they're talking about how Ed's relationship with his wife went downhill, because that shows a lot of character moments between the characters. So that was something I really enjoyed about this episode, and I gave this episode 4.5 stars, and that was my number one pick of the week. Well, that's all the episodes I reviewed for the week. And be sure to follow me on Twitter so I can keep you updated on new videos I post up. And also, like my Facebook page, Rabbitearsblog's Best Comments. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is Rabbitearsblog, and I'll see you later.